stigma in its tracks. Yeah. Well,
hey everyone.
Take it over, Rochele.
Okay, well, I guess first off, I just want to tell everyone I've never done this before. So we're going to start with a territory acknowledgement. Now, I want to acknowledge that we sit and learn today on the unceded territory of the Sneewak Nation. I have many friends here who are Indigenous, and stigma plays a huge part in their lives and always has. So, well, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I've been affected by stigma my whole life. I was adopted as a baby, and growing up, people who knew that would bug me about, my parents not wanting me and not whatever. I carry that with me today. I've never met any of my family. As a teenager, I was forced onto the streets out of my mom's house at 13 in Toronto. Being that young, there was a huge amount of stigma, but it's made me who I am today, I guess. Made me stronger, and it's made me able to stand up and be a voice for people. I hope today to help everyone maybe understand a little more about the effects of stigma and what they can do to help, because it's such a rampant problem in our city. Stigma, the definition of stigma really is just prejudice and discrimination. Prejudice is holding a negative attitude or belief about people who are viewed as different, and discrimination is the action on those beliefs. I'm going to talk about two types. There's so many types of stigma. It was hard not to include all of them, but it would take me forever. So I'm going to talk about substance use stigma and healthcare facility stigma, because both of them have impacted me. So in the past, the concept of individuals needing just willpower to quit drugs, or to just pull up their bootstraps and stop. It's common perception, which communicates the idea that the individual can control the substance use. Whereas if, like, an example of destigmatized view would be that it's a disease of the brain, and it is beyond being a matter of self-control and willpower, like how one would view and treat a physical disease. Stigma associated with substance use disorder can be divided into two kinds: social stigma and self-perceived stigma. Social stigma is people in the community, how people view people that use substances. They can be very detrimental to someone. Self-perceived stigma is how the person takes that and internalizes it, and it keeps them in substance use, it keeps them on the street, it keeps them from growing as a person, because eventually they believe what people think of them. I used to say to people, one of my exes, he used to tell me that I was just a piece of shit and no one would ever want me in their lives. And after a while, I believe that. So if you tell someone something long enough, they start to view themselves as that. And that's a really horrible place to be. Let's see here. It carries huge consequences. It fuels fear and anger and intolerance. I'm sure everyone here has been somewhere where someone who was homeless or a substance user, for lack of a different word right now, is acting out and yelling at someone. It that's what happens. They just get pushed up against a wall and they act out and they have fear and anger and it comes out to all the wrong people. When it comes to a lack of understanding, it can be painful and invalidating. It also conveys a sense of isolation and aloneness. People who are subjected to stigma are more likely to experience they're reluctant to seek treatment. Um, Delayed treatment increases mortality on the street. Social rejection, avoidance, and isolation. Again, um, they have a worse psychological well being. Poor understanding among their family and friends, I think, is probably the hardest one of all because that's your circle. They're supposed to be there for you. And everywhere out on the street, people that don't understand it. I've always said ignorance breeds fear, and fear breeds ignorance. Um, they are subjected to harassment, violence, and bullying. They have a poorer quality of life, and it increases their feelings of shame and self doubt. Stigma has arisen out of fear and lack of understanding. The public's perception of the most addictive and deadliest drugs are often not based on scientific evidence. You can help end stigma by learning the facts about drugs, drug use, and evidence based drug treatment. You can share that information when you hear talk involving misinformation, which a lot of people won't do. They'll hear someone saying something that isn't right, and they're too worried about how they're going to be viewed to stand up and correct them and educate them. Education's the biggest tool you can ever have in life. Research it and help educate everyone. Um, when someone doesn't know or when someone is being stigmatized, I don't know how many times I've been downtown and somebody's yelling at people. They don't know what they're saying. Um, we need to stand up because the people that are being stigmatized, they don't have the ability anymore to stand up. They've been pushed down so many times. Hold on here, I'm going to change the page. You can help by, if someone in your family or your circle has a substance use problem or disorder, don't push them away. They need connection. It's important. They need to know that you love them, whether they're going to get high or not. Because if they understand that you're there for them, no matter what, the chances of them wanting to get help is 100% greater than if you turn your back, and tell them, when you get clean, we'll talk to you. You're their family in their circle. You're supposed to love them no matter what. And the language that we use is, it may sound like a no-brainer, but often our words and or how they are used is one of the most crippling weapons we have. People don't even realize when they're saying it. You know, the word drug abuse instead of substance use disorder. You know, there was a study done where they had 20 people in a room and they were given a survey, and half the questions, no, all of the questions, you were supposed to answer what you thought for a drug abuser and what you thought for a substance use disorder. And all the negative aspects of this survey was gone to the side where they used the words drug abuser, because abuse, of course, means that the person is willingly doing it, that they can stop, because if you abuse someone, you can obviously stop, right? Where it's not, it's a disorder, it's a medical problem, and people just don't get that. So we were gonna do an exercise, except my computer screwed up last night, so I didn't get it on, but I just wanted people to think of words on the negative side and the positive side. Like if you were to say, people call substance use users junkies and crackheads and stuff like that, what would be a good word to use instead? I don't know if we can have everyone talk on this.
We can do that.
Yeah.
I can also annotate. I can do like a whole annotated moment, whiteboard moment, if I can get it going here. And yeah, we could definitely do that.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe they could come up with some negative words and positive words. Take a couple of minutes or something.
Yeah, it's nice to have an activity for us to do.
So I have a whiteboard up. I'm not sure if everyone can. I think if you press annotate, everyone should be able to write their own answers. But if folks also want to just yell them out to me, I can type them out. But maybe I'll just put like the negative words.
And annotate is if you go to the top of the screen, there's a little arrow, and then you could click it. There's a drop-down menu, and you go down there to find annotate if you're on a laptop or a computer. I think if you're on a tablet, there's like a menu at the bottom that you have to click a little arrow and get the options up.
Or it'll be a little pencil icon.
Yeah. Okay, pencil icon.
Or we can just,
Or we can talk too, yeah.
Yeah, I see Keisha's on there. Oh, I just can't see them all. Yeah, if you want to throw them out or put them in the chat, that's also possible too. Is there a chat thing?
In the chat, Keisha's saying the negative word of squaw that's used.
Yeah.
Mainly against Indigenous women, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, they like to use the words clean and dirty. You know, Bob is clean, or instead it means not actively using.
So that would be, even if it was clean, would that be still a negative word because it's still falling under this like paradigm of clean and dirty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a person, yeah. Or a reformed drug user is a person in recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a million examples. I just
Oh, there's lots of good ones.
Alicia was, yeah, saying that sober when it's used to try to like inspire others can come across as negative
Yeah.
mhm.
because it's
And
like
then-
used in a way that you're trying to change someone.
Mhm.
I've
Yeah.
had it come from elders and people who are from like an older 12-step generation.
Mm.
And they come in to groups of women and the language they have is just triggering. So
Yeah. So the positive word for sober would be maybe a person in recovery or a person
I like it when somebody says we're all in a different place of wellness
Mm.
or well-being,
yeah.
because it really is all encompassing
Mm-hmm.
and it's not specifically speaking to sobriety, right?
Mm.
Oh, I guess you can't see what I'm writing because I didn't click save.
I had to press something too.
Oh.
Sorry.
What about the word? Because I put survivor. Is that good or bad or maybe there's maybe not good or bad, but like could that be taken in a negative way?
I don't think so. Especially
Okay.
with the opiate crisis.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Totally.
And Melinda said the word head. I'm not familiar with that term. Where that would fall. I wasn't sure.
Well, between users, it's not a bad word, but a head is just someone who does drugs.
Okay.
I believe anyway. I think that's what it is.
Mhm.
So
That's
is
the
it
way
like,
we used to call people who smoke pot heads. Of
Mm.
course, I'm really old, so they probably don't do that anymore.
is that like the stigma between substance users? Like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm just a drinker, they do hard drugs. Like that's
yeah,
the
totally.
I call it drug snobbery.
Yeah, addiction snobbery. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's a
Which
good one.
yeah, it feels like that's definitely like a public attitude too. Like that's alcohol is generally accepted, so it can create those kind of feelings and like that this is okay, that's not okay, and it becomes internalized.
Yeah,
Yeah. I always like to speak too about the resilience in people who live through this stuff because it's like trauma every day and like to still be here and just show up like is so there's incredible resiliency. So I guess resilient people like or if there's another way to use the term to
yeah.
describe.
Mm. Yeah, hierarchy. There's a couple really good ones in the chat. I'll try to type them out here. It is really good. It's a good point about how like certain words though can,
Mm-hmm.
might be good for others, but might not be good for might be good for others, might not be good for some people too. So it's good. It's a good thing to think about for sure.
It depends on who's using them.
Yeah,
Mm.
I was just going to say, you're never going to make everyone happy with your negative and positive words because people think differently. But my point was, if we try and think
Mhm.
about what we're saying before we say it,
Mm.
we might not think it's a negative impact. And really, at the end of the day, a lot of the times, people just are at the end of their rope with the way people see them. I mean, right now in Nanaimo, it's horrible. They've closed down Wesley Street where all of the homeless were living because of a fire. So because of one person's mistake at trying to keep warm, as silly as it was, like 80 people were displaced, and they weren't told where to go. They weren't given an option, or they weren't given anything. And they went down to a park, and every day the cops and bylaw are down there, like 7 times a day, kicking them out. And finally, they went down yesterday and fenced off all the gazebos, anything in the park that could keep them dry. And everyone is just devastated. They've got nothing. You know,
Mm.
everything that was donated to them was taken by the city again and thrown away. So we've got people all over our city that are cold and soaking wet. And then on top of all that, we've got all the people in town that don't really understand what's going on, putting them down. You know, they're saying things like, if you can't find a place to live here and leave drugs alone, then get the fuck out of our city. Like, or, you know, all they want to do is sit and do drugs, or it's just, it's horrible. And they're in a really hard place right now. And we've been trying so hard for the last few days to help them. And yeah, it's not working. So that's another big reason that I did this today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What has been done so far to support them?
Well, we did a press release. There was, yeah, this is a long, there's someone in charge of the group. I tried to create a group that would just peacefully try and work with everyone. And we ended up with someone taking over the group, and they did a press release. And we marched on City Hall, although no one's in City Hall because they all work from home right now. And I don't know what they've done since then. They've, a lot of donations came in, but like I said, they were all taken yesterday and thrown away again.
Oh,
Like, I mean, people went out and bought tents and sleeping bags and food and clothes and
mhm.
gloves, and they take it all and throw it in the garbage. They're, from what I can see, is they're trying to break the spirit of everyone, so they just go away because they don't want homeless people here. And you know, they're part of our community too. Some of them were born and raised here. They don't want to go anywhere else.
Mhm.
We've got a lot of really good outreach companies in town, and Wisteria Lane, they feed people every night. They're wonderful. They come
Okay.
down with soup and coffee, and yeah, there's a lot of support, but in correlation, the people that don't support are so many more.
Yeah.
And then you've got people who just, you know, I call them keyboard warriors, and I sit up all night long arguing with these people, and it drives me nuts, trying to show them that how wrong they are. And it boils down to, I'm just telling everyone now, instead of complaining on social media, why don't we meet somewhere and I'll take you and introduce you to the people, and you can talk to them and walk away with your own opinion instead of someone else's.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a tool that I would love to use on a daily basis. Just take people around, walk around and talk to them, because everyone has a story. Everyone's story is different. You know, they didn't just get homeless because they do drugs and spend all their money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I have an outreach company, and I've done it for 3 years. I live in a garage, in a room in the back of a garage for the last 3 years. I mean, it is the most non-ideal place to live and I hate it. But at the end of the day, I'm going to get all emotional here, but at the end of the day, I have a roof.
Hmm.
And I thank whoever every night that I have a roof, because I could be out on the street. So it could happen to anyone.
Well, you're incredibly strong, and just in sharing all this and what's going on, I know it's like very present right now.
Yeah.
It's
I wish I
difficult.
had an answer, but I don't.
Yeah, it's okay to not know too,
Yeah.
and hopefully it'll come. It'll
Yeah.
come. Making those connections.
Definitely. Okay. Anyway, I wanted to share a website that I was on. It's called Shatterproof.org. It's all about stigma reducing language.
Okay.
If people are interested in, yeah. And if you just Google stigma, whatever, there's a ton of places on the internet that talk about it. A lot of it's real boring crap, but anyway, we've got like 20 minutes left, so I was gonna carry on with my second part.
Yeah.
Yeah, health condition related stigma.
You also had that image. I don't know if you want to when you want me to share that image.
The one about, oh yeah, actually I forgot about that. That would be a good time before I carry
This
on.
one.
Yeah, I like that one because it gives you crunches numbers. So it's just a stat on who does it affect. So it says 1 in 10 Canadians experience substance use problems today. That's a lot of people. 8 in 10 with a substance use disorder say they experience barriers to recovery, including stigma. So, yeah, there's a lot of places that cost a lot of money to go to treatment. That's a huge stigma. If you can't get sponsored through like Salvation Army or whatever. And the last one was almost half of Canadians in recovery from substance use disorder experience stigma while in active addiction. And I don't think that's a proper number, really. Because if you were to ask the people here, I bet you every single one of them at one time or another has had stigmatizing stuff happen to them. I mean, I got to the point where people used to call me a crackhead and I used to turn around and say, get it right, I'm a speed freak. They're just misinformation. People just, yeah, they're horrible. Anyway, I'm going to carry on with this. A stigma related to living with a specific disease or health condition. It can be experienced in all spheres of life. Doesn't matter if you're on the street, poor, rich, old, young. People that don't understand specific diseases and stuff are horrible, stigmatizing. Where was I? In health facilities, within health facilities, common drivers of stigma are negative attitudes. Their fears, like I said, fear breeds ignorance, totally. Their beliefs, religion beliefs, a lack of awareness of both the condition and stigma. See, there's that, people don't even realize they're doing it. The inability to clinically manage the condition. So if you went to a certain, like your doctor, and he said, no, we can't deal with that. You've got to go here, and that just makes you stand out Yeah, healthcare workers may fear infection. See, a lot of what I'm going to talk about now, I changed it because I've gone through a lot of stigma in the hospital. I once went in to see the emergency room. I had an abscess in a tooth, and my face was so swollen that I was scared it was gonna like just blow up or something. um, they kept me waiting for like 2 hours. And when I finally got to see someone, they had sent a social worker in the room. And she introduced herself to me, and she said that if I agreed to go to treatment, that they would pull all my teeth and buy my dentures for me because um, everyday everyday methamphetamine use causes tooth decay. And I never told anyone there that I used drugs. I just went in for ibuprofen until I could go to see the dentist on Monday. But that's a perceived stigma, which happens all the time, you know. Um, Doctors and nurses, like in the emergency, they'll make you wait super long. They'll take everyone
Mm.
else before you if they know they might think you're there just as a pill seeker because you're broke and you can't afford your drugs. Um, what else? Anyway, my point of view on this one, I tried to change it more on the healthcare side view than my view. So anyway, healthcare workers might fear infection from the person, which is a huge thing on the street that goes from person to person, are like MRSA, huge infection rates, or the behaviors of a person from a group that are classed like that. They're angry. Well, of course, they're angry. They're in pain. They just need to be looked at and treated, and they don't. So they get angry. So healthcare workers are scared of that. Um, they may also experience moral distress based on their personal disapproval of the behaviors associated with diseases, which may lead to stigmatizing reactions that impair their abilities to be effective providers. So, you know, if someone's in there yelling that, you know, hey, just give me something for the pain, or see me, or, you know, we've all seen it, that their reaction isn't going to be proper because they're scared. They may be unaware of how stigma affects people. You know, if they're so scared, it really, it's another one of those up against the walls, right? They should have someone there who's trained, um, who sat down with people with lived experience so they understand um, how to de-escalate, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because it's all avoidable. A lack of knowledge, you know, like how transmission, you know, how infection goes from person to person, or anything like that. Unnecessary precautions, like if you're in a room and a nurse comes in to look at you and she puts on 3 pairs of gloves instead of 1 because she's scared that she's going to catch something. You know, it's ridiculous. And it happens every day. Or they keep you quarantined from everyone else. You know, a lot of people will say, well, that's just the way they are. But no, it's not. That's from not knowing. Sometimes they don't believe in the curability of some stigmatized conditions. They might have biased opinions on the care that they can give, lacking knowledge about how to provide that care for a specific condition, or lacking confidence in themselves to provide that. That is going to result in poor quality and discriminatory care. You know, so that one's pretty self-explanatory. The policies or systems that are in place. This one really gets me because I think this is how we have to start to fix this problem, is with their policies. For example, I said, yeah, okay, no, you have got to go to a separate clinic. That, or flagging someone's chart. 15 years ago, I left a guy who got me addicted to speed. Okay, now I take full onus for my own, you know, he introduced me to it, but I did it. I get that. When I left him, he went to my doctor and told my doctor that I got him hooked on dope. And the next time I went in to see my doctor, he freaked on me and he said, I can't believe you did that. He fired me as a fucking patient and he flagged my chart. So my chart 15 years ago to this day, because that can never be taken off my chart, I call it red flag. And as soon as I go anywhere, everyone knows that how long I've been doing speed. They know everything. So right away, I'm treated as a drug addict, whether I'm clean or not. Right? I mean, I run my own company and I consider myself a functioning addict. Not everyone can do that. I can. And actually, a funny thing about this, I wasn't going to talk about this, but it's already out now. I've gone to see walk-in doctors ever since that day because of the stigma I got from him. He was the walk-in doctor one day when I went in there. And because I've been doing drugs for so long, you know, you get used to it. So I sleep all the time and I eat all the time. And I'm just like a regular Joe on the street now. I'm not skinny and stressed out. And he looked at me and he said, wow, I'm so happy you straightened your life out. And, you know, he sat there and looked at me and waited and waited. I knew he knew I didn't have a doctor. So he was waiting for me to ask to come back. And I just looked at him and I said, yeah, you're right. I'm doing good. And that was it. I've never talked to him again, but I thought that was funny. Okay, my attitude, anyway, flagging your chart to distinguish them from the medical treatment of other patients. That's a no-brainer. Yeah, you get a red file, then you're treated like crap right away. My views on how to fix it, I think an improved understanding of how health conditions stigma is currently addressed in health facilities is needed. It's needed to identify gaps in treatment, in understanding. And if we do that, then we'll know where to spend our time with stigma reduction. I forgot. If they do that and they really look into it, like do an in-depth study, then, and a whole study of all of it, then instead of just fixing a little part of it, maybe they can figure out the possibility of addressing all of the issues regarding stigma at one time, because we all know that if the bottom floor of your house is broke and you only fix one room, the rest of it's still broke and it's not really going to make a difference. Oh, what else was I going to say? Yes, I forgot. Anyway, there's a bit of a slide where, yeah. Okay, stigma doesn't only affect those who are living with stigmatized health conditions. Its ramifications reverberate outward through communities and inwards through the health facility. This is a bit of a ladder. of sorts. Anyway, through the health facility and into the policies and procedures is the next step. And from there, it goes down to staff. On the stigma side of it, it starts with reducing stigma, down to workplace environment, then down to quality of care. So this is like workplace environment is where stigma starts, and then it affects the quality of care, and then it affects clinical outcomes, and finally it affects the social risks taken when the person accesses the care. So really it just shows if we reduce the stigma, all of these levels need to be included to be able to make people comfortable seeking the attention that they need. I don't know how many times I've been downtown on an outreach shift, and all of them are my friends. I love everyone on the street here to death. I've known them for a long time, and I've seen people with abscesses where they've lost their legs or an arm because they didn't want to go and seek treatment. And to me, that's just wrong in every possible way. And we really need to try and stop that. We need to, stop making them feel so horrible for what they do to survive. I mean, there's so many reasons people use substances. And, I know a ton of people who have been homeless that weren't substance users when they became homeless. And within 2 years, because of the shit that you go through on the street, they're doing drugs because it's one of the ways to cope. It numbs your feelings. It helps you stay up to protect your stuff and to stay safe. I mean, it's such a horrible, vicious cycle, and it's just nasty. Anyway, that's about what I got. So I think we were gonna do a question and answer.
Yeah.
Are we gonna do
Yeah.
that or no?
Yeah, we have 15 minutes for some questions. If anyone has questions, they can, or comments, they can feel free to put it in the chat or put it out there. Unmute yourself if you feel free to do that. Thank you for Rochele. That was awesome. I've also put the Google Doc in the chat if anyone wants to put things there as well.
It would have been a little more together if I didn't beat my laptop up last night.
It sounded like a really fun experience, so it was worth it.
Oh, yeah, my laptop crapped out on me and I tried to fix it and it didn't work. So I took it outside with my sledgehammer and I beat the crap out of it and I felt so much better.
Perfect.
I don't think the neighbors understood, but whatever.
You did great, Rochele. It was great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, no one's asking questions. So I just want to say, if people can stand up for themselves or for somebody else who can't, hey, educate yourself and talk with other people that don't know to educate themselves what it's all about, man. Yeah. Research and education is the way to win. Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, please.
Just from advice and experience, what is the best way that you know of to teach a stigmatized person to represent themselves out in community?
Wow. That's a tough one because I think that the roughest stigma there is internalized. What we tell ourselves that we can and can't do. It just keep being positive affirmation over and over, just like negative. Eventually, maybe they'll believe it, but they've got to come there themselves.
Okay,
So
thank
just
you.
support. Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, Rochelle. So much great information in there and really great, discussion amongst the group, and love that word exercise.
Thank you.
I did not know about the flag charting, and it's kind of getting me a little riled up. It's like you might as not that having a criminal record,
No.
is anything bad about the person, but it's not good for a person, and it's
No.
almost like that's kind of in line with that. And I just think it's so fortunate. My question to you, are there groups out there that advocate to that point specifically to health authorities or whoever, or you know what I mean?
I don't think there is. And the thing with this is I believe that mark never goes away. So it's always on your chart. So whoever can access your medical records will know that. And it doesn't just affect me. Like, my son hurt himself at work. We had the same doctor. He went in to see him, and the doctor totally talked down to him and wouldn't give him any pain meds. And my son, he's a big boy. He's like 6'3" and 240, 250, something like that. He got really mad because he knows what the doctor did to me. And he jumped up and started yelling at my doctor. And he's like, "Oh, I'll give you what you want." And from that day forward, respects my son totally. But for that to go from, okay, when my ex went in to talk to my doctor and I went in, I would have been fine had my doctor said, "I want you to take a drug test to see if you're on it or not." But he didn't even give me that. He told me what my ex told him and didn't ask me if it was true, didn't test me, just put that mark on my file and it's there for life. And while it's all true, I am an addict, I didn't get my ex hooked. And it just would have been nice had I been given the given the choice of telling him or being tested, or at least I'd be validated by the mark. And really, it shouldn't make a difference. It doesn't make me a horrible person.
Yeah.
Like, it really doesn't.
Mhm.
Keisha, you wanted to share something with that?
Yeah, there is an organization that was working with Mary Ellen Turpel Lafond, and it's the recent inquiry into looking at racism in the healthcare system for Aboriginal people. So you might be able to find some information there, specifically regarding the stigma that you're experiencing. I know that the organization is called Sneewak, the acronym, and it's here in Victoria. But what they do is they are working to try to like accompany people to their appointments to sort of break down. So they were a part of this as well. And I just wanted to share it with you because I know it's not an answer.
It's
But
a great help though.
yes, and I also wanted to mention that down here in Victoria, there are tent cities that are dealing with the same issues. So I also wanted to see if you're connected with Leon or any of those individuals. And I've put my email in there for you. But I also wanted to ask you, what has been the best tool for you to combat stigma for yourself? And what advice would you give somebody who is like really struggling with it?
First of all, thank you for linking me with the stuff you have. That's great. Everyone is so diversely different that I don't think there's a one answer. Personally, I use my humor to combat stigma. Like when someone yells at me in a passing car or walking by that I'm a crackhead, I'm like, get it right, I'm a speed freak. You know, it just stops them dead and they're like, what? I had a welfare worker do that. Yeah, it was bizarre. And I said the same thing to her. I was well, yeah, long story. Anyway, they just need to, oh man, it's so hard. Stigma's such a place, such a roadblock in our brains that they just, you got to figure out your own way to deal with it, I think. I'd love to see there be some kind of program where people could go and talk about what's happened to them through stigma and how to deal with it. And I think that would be a great way to help people who every day go through it. I mean, I was in a store the other day. It was like an 80-year-old pharmacy, and I was looking for something. And I had some time to kill, so I was just looking around. And I had one person come up and ask me if they could show me where something was. And I said, no, it's okay. I'm just looking around. And by the time I had gone to the end of their store, I had 5 people walking around me, working in the store. And I had what I wanted to buy. So as I walked up to the till, I just said, oh, look I've got money. I'm buying something. You know, you guys can all go back to work now. You don't have to worry about me. But yeah, and so obvious that they're watching me. It makes a person feel, I used to hate it. And I used to get so mad. And now I just make them feel like a fool. Because if they really didn't think I noticed 7 people going from aisle to aisle, making sure I'm not stealing something. And another huge one was when I had my teeth pulled. It didn't matter who looked at me. Right away, I was a bottom feeder. And I'm starting to realize now that I have dentures and I still get it. I walk into a store and people think I'm going to steal, right? Like I don't steal. And it bothered me a long time. And now I have fun with it. I'll go to a display of sunglasses and pull them all off and lay them on the counter and walk away. And they don't know if one of the spots is empty. Just have fun with it. You know, everyone needs a whole lot of compassion training, I think. You know, how to deal with people, because there's a right and a wrong way. And if you deal with people right, everything will be great. But yeah.
I love that piece of advice. I love it. It really like gets it, you know, it's on the way of trying to be a internalized stigma and it just shakes it off right away and it shoots it right back out.
Yeah, and really, when faced with humor, what's someone going to do? Like I said, it stops them dead. They have nothing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, humor's great.
Thanks,
I have a
Rochele.
question.
Yes,
I'm
please go.
wondering if there's a way to balance your boundaries with having compassion for people.
Sorry, you were cutting in and out.
Okay. I'm just wondering if there is something you could suggest for balancing your boundaries with also having compassion for people.
Another tough one that I'm going through. You know what? There's such a huge burnout rate with advocacy and outreach and helping people. Compassion can drain the shit out of you. You've just got to put up a limit. I ran into it this year. I've had so many people I know. I've had 73 people pass away in 2 years that I know of the opioid crisis. And I was at the end of my rope and I ran away and I pitched a tent on the side of a mountain in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. And I stayed there for 10 months by myself. And I just came to terms with me and I'm happy with myself again. And I realized that I can't keep doing this because I am so compassionate and I wear my heart on my sleeve and I give everything. I will work day and night to help people who won't help themselves. And it is so draining. And I always said I'm not going to be that person who's going to burn out and give in. And you know what? I was wrong. So I think you just got to set a boundary for yourself and stick with it. You know, like whether that's okay, I can only work 5 hours a day. Don't at the 5th hour say, oh, but you know, if I only work 1 more hour, I can help this person finish. Right? You gotta stick to your guns, and otherwise, you'll have nothing left for you.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that wisdom. Definitely. And that story. Yeah. Is there something that we can do to support you in your ongoing work?
No, I'm just putting it all on hold right now. There's so many companies here in Nanaimo, and I'm thinking about maybe just going into a different branch. I've been doing a lot of grief counseling with people. A lot of young, a friend of my son's that he grew up with passed away from fentanyl a month ago, and there is a huge network of kids in this little community outside of Nanaimo that are at ends, and there's nothing here for them. So I'm thinking of maybe going to school to get some credentials to do something like that in a year or so. I think it's important. Our kids are our next. Our kids are going to end up looking after us, damn it. We don't need them all fucked up. Yeah.
Olivia said in the chat, thanks for the humor, laughs, and honesty, Rochelle. I just feel that a lot.
Cool.
Thank you for that offering.
Well, we all need more laughter, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I hope we can, yeah, provide some further support if we can. And again, if we'd like to stay in touch, sharing on that doc. I don't know if Sage could share it again in the chat. Okay, sweet. And if there's any like final words, or Rochelle, if you have any final words, close this off.
No, just learn as much as you can and stand up for those that can't.
Yeah.
Might be the difference of life and death. You never know.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for being here.
I miss you and Jenny.
We miss you too.
Oh,
Yeah, one
know.
came and went, there was no call.
you're so freaking strong and inspiring, Rochelle.
Huh?
You're so strong and inspiring.
Well, thank you.
It's
Sometimes I don't feel
it's
like
like
it, but
wow. Wow.
It's amazing. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, everyone. Claps for Rochelle. Claps for Rochelle. Claps. Yeah, claps. Awesome. I'm gonna stop recording now. And we have a 15-minute break until the next presentation. So
There's a
please,
poll real quick.
there is a poll. Oh yeah. I'm gonna stop recording now, but
I
yes,
can
do the poll.